Elizabeth Chappell, a lifelong entrepreneur who finally found my niche. After years of new ideas and jumping from business to business, I figured out how to turn a craft into a successful career. In 2016, I started a monthly subscription box for quilters. That little startup has grown into a thriving, multiple six-figure business that I am so proud of. As a published author, designer of fabrics and patterns being sold throughout the world, my favorite thing to do is to teach others how to grow a career of their dreams. Each week, you'll hear from me or from other guests who are creative entrepreneurs, so you can learn exactly what to do and what not to do to grow a career that's more rewarding and successful than you ever thought possible. If you're ready to turn your craft into a career that you love, I am so excited you're here. Welcome to the Craft to Career podcast. Kim, I am so excited to have you here today. Can you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about what you do in the quilting community?
Yeah, so my name is Kim Sandberg. I'm the education manager at Handi Quilter. We manufacture long arm quilting machines. We're the largest manufacturer of long arm quilting machines in the world. Very proud to say that. This is also a company that was started by a woman, so I'm very proud to be part of that heritage. Just a little bit more about me, background. I'm a mom of two grown kids. My youngest just graduated from high school, and so she's heading off into the world. I live in Utah. I am a quilter. I've been a quilter for, do I dare admit, almost 30 years. I love it. Yeah. And I've done all kinds of things in the quilting industry. I've done lots of teaching, many different things, but the path that brought me to Handi Quilter is kind of fun, quite interesting. But I love what I do, and I get to manage a team of, right now we currently have 34 national educators that live around the U.S. and Canada, and they travel and teach all over the love of long arm quilting to people. So that's me in a nutshell.
Very cool. Even in that introduction, I could spend a whole podcast on all of the different topics. Can you tell us in a nutshell how you did get to work for Handi Quilter? How did that come about?
Yeah. So, the old saying, it's all about who you know. So I'll put a little plug in for that. Make friends everywhere that you go. So, my family and I moved to Utah in 2013 after living all over the Northwest. And I joined the chapter of the Modern Quilt Guild in an effort to find my quilting tribe. I was really excited to actually live in an area that had guilds again. I'd been living in North Dakota. There wasn't a lot there, I must say. And after I'd been in about a year, we had a retreat where we all rented a big house up in the mountains here. And one evening I was sitting having a lovely conversation with a gal named Sarah Watts. It's not the fabric designer Sarah Watts. Okay. It's the vice president of Handi Quilter, Sarah Watts. Different person, fabulous person, wonderful quilter. And she was asking me some questions about my background. She said, Kim, you should come work for Handi Quilter. And I'm like, oh, I have one of those. I just bought one of those. I was so excited. So I applied for the National Educator Program. And after a few months, I got a call and they had me come in and I interviewed. They hired me as a national educator. I did that for a year. So I traveled and taught all over the U.S. That was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun. Got to meet a lot of really great people. And then one of the studio educators retired. And they asked me if I'd like to come and start working full time. And it was a perfect time for me. My youngest had just started junior high. So it was a great time for me to go back to work full time. And so I was I've been a studio educator for 4 years. And then I've been the education manager now for 2 years. So that's kind of the path that brought me here. Before that, I would just go to local shops and hit them up and say, hey, I love quilting. I love teaching. You want me to come and teach? And they'd be like, sure. So
that is so cool.
So we got started.
Yeah. Okay. And I'll be honest, the reason that I wanted you on the podcast, you reached out and you had a bullet point of all these topics that you wanted to cover. Mm-hmm. Every single one of them. I was like, oh yeah, this is perfect. So I'm just going to kind of go through and ask them. So the very first bullet point that you have, it says, how do you decide when you're good enough? Mm-hmm. And you and I know we work with women in this industry. What's like the number one thing people say?
Oh,
I'm not good enough.
Not good enough. Yep.
And how do I get qualified? Or,
yep.
Yeah. So speak to me on that topic, if you will.
Okay. So I am a person who, it's part of my personality. I've never been afraid to stand up and say, hey, I want to try this. I want to do this. Oh, guess what? I know how to do this. And go, I think I'm pretty good. Which I know is a little abnormal, especially for a woman. Like we tend to be a little bit more reticent, a little bit more stand back. But I just decided I was good enough. I went to a guild meeting in, I'm trying to remember. It was probably like 2002. And introduced myself and said, hey, I want to start teaching. Does anybody want to take classes? And all the ladies kind of looked at me because I was a fresh-faced young mom. I was 25. I just had my first baby. I think they were kind of like, what does this girl know about sewing? And I'm like, well, you'd be surprised. I know more than you think I do. I've been sewing my whole life. I come from a family of sewists. And so I just put myself out there. Now, as to the question of other people deciding if they're good enough, I feel like a lot of us feel like we have to have some kind of a qualification. The simple fact is, if it's something that you can do and you feel like you do a good job at, you're good enough. That's what I always tell people. My new educators that come into the program, I tell them, I say, look, the reason why I brought you in here is because I know you're good enough. I've seen your work. You do beautiful quilting. I've talked to other people who have been in your classes and heard you teach, and you are an inspiring teacher. You know how to listen. You know how to rephrase things in case people don't understand the first time. You know how to encourage people and help them leave with the confidence to do this. So I think part of deciding that you're good enough is just that. It's making a choice and saying, you know what, gosh darn it, I'm good enough. I deserve this. And not only that, I want to do it. I think that's another big part of it too. Don't let the fact that you feel like maybe you aren't the absolute end all expert stop you from saying, yes, I want to do this. I'm going to give it a try because I know that I can do this.
Okay. I love this. And have you personally experienced somebody, I'm going to guess that yes, you have at some point, but you've had somebody say, that's not the right way. That's not how I do it. You're doing it wrong. Tell me, and how do you handle that?
Okay, so we're talking about the quilt police here, right?
Yeah.
Is it okay to use that phrase here?
I think, yeah. I mean, I'm okay with it.
I always love to use that. So I know that there's maybe that older tradition of there's a right way and a wrong way to do things. I think of like the classic home ec teacher who would say, no, you didn't pin that piece onto the pattern correctly because you pinned it straight grain instead of cross grain. And I'm like, you know what? I only have this much fabric and it's how it fits. So who cares? The shirt will still fit, right? So my answer to people always is, you know what? That's one way to do it. And that's a great way to do it. But guess what? There's lots of ways to do it. And they're all the right way for that person.
Yeah.
So that's what I tell people.
I really like that. Well, and it's interesting because when I first started, I mean, I'm just realizing as you said this, there's still a method of making half square triangles that I don't do because somebody said that's wrong. It's on the bias. What? Like I haven't done it since then, Yeah. So that's interesting. I just had that epiphany.
Yes.
But it's maybe you don't like cutting on the bias, but it will lead to different outcomes, but it's not right or wrong. It's just, here's what will happen if So interesting. So, okay. You work with a lot of women. How do you find these educators? It sounds like, tell me how you do that.
So we have a pretty fun process. Number one, Handi Quilter has over 350, almost 400 retailers nationwide that we work with. So a lot of our national educators come from those shops. They're women who have women and men, I should stress that, and men who go in and say, you know what, I love long arming. I want to teach it. Give me a shot, coach. put me in. And they do it, and they do a really good job. They're recommended by their retailers. So that's one way we find some of our national educators. Another way that we do is at our academy every year. So Handi Quilter does a big conference every year. We call it Academy. And we have about 250 quilters that come together with the best educators in the industry. Of course, all people from my team. I am a little biased here. And we often have students that come, and they will come multiple years. And after they've been there a few years, they'll come to me and they'll say, Kim, what do I have to do to apply? So I'll send them a link. We have a form online that you can find. I can actually send you the link if anybody's interested, because I'm always looking for good people. And you fill that out. And then from there, I talk to different, your references. And that's how I find people. That's how I find a lot of my people, is through those two ways.
Very cool. Yeah. Well, and one thing that really intrigues me about this, I think I teach a course, right, on how to write some quilt patterns. People will think, oh, the only way I can earn money in the quilting industry is to write and sell quilt patterns. Mm-mm. I mean, even as a quilt writer, it's not just writing your own patterns. There's so many routes. So what are opportunities that you see for women to have a career in this industry, which is a $1 billion industry? I mean, there's enough to go around.
Yes, there is. So there's a few different paths here that I see. One is becoming an educator and teaching people. A lot of people, especially when you start getting into the high-end sewing machines, and I include long arms in that, we all know that those are a major investment. These are not $500 machines. A lot of times they're not even $5,000 machines. They're cost more than your car. I will freely admit that, right? Because you have invested in this piece of machinery, you want to learn how to use it, and you want to learn how to use it correctly. I think it kind of goes back to what we were just talking about. There's a right way and there's a wrong way, right? A lot of people think. So people are willing to invest in that education. So I know that when I first started teaching, I had a lot of people come to me even and ask for private lessons. And it was amazing. It was a lot of fun. I'd go and spend a day with somebody in their quilting studio and help them learn how to long arm quilt. So that's one route you can do. Another route is finding a company like Handi Quilter and partnering with them. All the national educators that I'm talking about that work for us are independent contractors. They're 1099 contractors. And so they are not employees of Handi Quilter. We worked with them on a contract basis. We have an agreement with them. And we connect them with retailers to go out and do events in their shops. So that's another great way to do it. Another way is through videos. A lot of people love the virtual education now. We all love to sit in our sewing rooms or our quilting studios and watch videos while it's like quilting with your best friend. So that's another way to do it. Also teaching at national shows. So there's a lot of, the big quilt shows. A lot of my educators do teach at those also. So those are all ways that you can get out there and share the love and make some money while you're doing it.
Yeah. Now, you probably can't speak to here's what we pay or, whatever, but could somebody realistically support their family on this kind of an income?
So I do have, I have kind of two different categories of educators, okay, to kind of answer this, because you're right, I can't speak to exactly how much we pay. But I have some educators, for example, that are retired, and they do this for their fun money, I guess you could say. They do this to pay for their habit, for lack of a better way of saying it. They absolutely, and they probably only do 1 or 2 events a month. Now, on the other hand, I have another educator. His name is Nick Turkin. He lives in Vancouver, Canada. So Vancouver, British Columbia, Canada. He's fabulous. He is a full-time quilter when he's not teaching. So he actually has a studio. He lives in downtown Vancouver. It's a really awesome studio. You guys should check him out online. And when he's not out teaching, he quilts for other people. And he does a lot of custom quilting. He does fabric dyeing. He does all of these kind of things. So he's kind of combined the two things to create a career. And that is what he does full time. So I've got the full spectrum there, from somebody who just does it for fun to somebody who that's how he makes his living.
Yeah, which brings me back to you said when before you were working full time,
Mhm.
I think junior high, your youngest was in junior high, you were still working for Handi Quilter. How time intensive was that? A lot of people in my audience, they have kids or they have other things in their life and they don't have time to commit to full time. So, what did that look like in that period of your life?
So when I was a national educator, what I did was I traveled and taught. So I would work, I would say that one year I did roughly 2 events a month. So I would be gone for, it was usually 4 or 5 days at a time. And so I'd be gone like a Thursday to, or a Wednesday to a Sunday. And I did that 2 weekends a month. And that's what I did for work. So when I was working, I was working. I was gone. Which actually was kind of fun to have that time away, I guess I should say. I know some people go super guilty about it. I always loved it. I felt like I was actually a better mom when I came back because I wasn't sick of my kids. I was excited to be around them again. So that's how that looked. My work was really, when I was working, I was gone. And when I was home, I was running a long arm business at the time. And so I was long arming while my kids were in school. And then I would be, just mom the rest of the time.
Yeah. Well, and it's very interesting. I'm noticing probably because the age that I am and the stage of life that I'm at, women my age who are mothers, their kids are leaving the home or they're going to school and they have all day. And with modern technology, we don't need to spend all day washing laundry and cooking and, the things that stay-at-home women have done. And so all of these women and, this demographic, they're like, what's my purpose? What do I do? And they're all looking for work. And so I love that Handi Quilter was started by a female. There's just this huge pocket of the population that, and not to say there are women who don't have kids who also want to work, but, just speaking to this demographic, there are many unique opportunities and flexibility. Like you can work a little bit, you could work a lot. And so this world is very new to me because I don't own a long arm. I love my long armor friends. I send my quilts to them. How would they go about like reaching out to a local quilt shop or teaching classes? What does that look like?
Okay. So I always recommend to people, just go in and talk to the quilt shop owner and say, maybe take a few samples in with you to show them what you do. Maybe take in a few class ideas of here's something I'd like to teach. Another thing that you can do before you approach somebody with teaching, and I did do this, I had a group of friends that I got together with and said, hey, you guys, I want to practice some classes on you. Would you mind? And then I got feedback from them. I was able to take and improve and then move forward with that. So don't be afraid to maybe do a little bit of experimenting first. Practice teaching on some of your friends who are willing to be honest and upfront with you. But building that relationship with a local quilt shop, trust me, they're usually looking for teachers, especially ones that can come up with fresh new ideas, ways to get people into their shops. So if you have, some fun ideas, that's a great place to start.
That's interesting. I'm just thinking about that on my own. So my business brain is going and I'm thinking there's the two aspects. One, it's really fun to connect with people and to have that. There's also the scaling aspect. So I had a monthly subscription box and every extra dollar that I earned was more work for me. And so it seems like with long arm quilting or teaching, that's the case, but I guess it crosses a different bucket. Is there a way to have that scalability? I guess it'd be online teaching where you can do the work once and earn money over and over again.
Yes. And I do have a handful of my educators, especially that are just starting to do this, where they're building their own online courses. And a lot of their students actually come from teaching in person because people, they take a class from them, they really connect. They say, hey, how can I find them? Here's where, and then the teacher will say, here's where I am online. And then they put courses up and they work through with them. Some of them even do like virtual clubs, especially for Pro Stitcher, which is our computerized or robotic system, which is definitely a different skill set to learn than just sewing or, quilting with a long arm. And so a lot of people love to take those classes virtually. Exactly. So yeah, thinking outside the box there is a good one.
And I also love that idea of you doing a one-on-one session. Like, yes, that's not scalable, no, it's not scalable, but how rewarding, and you can charge a premium price because you are giving your time one-on-one.
Exactly. Yeah. I paid for, I will freely admit, I had a couple of Christmases that's how I paid for a very nice Christmas, was just doing private lessons with people. And it was usually just a day. One tip I would give is make sure that if you are driving a long distance to go teach somebody, that you be sure and include that drive time in your fee to make your time, your time is worth it.
And I'll say, probably charge more than you're charging. I'm going to say that to anyone out there because we are undercharging. And if somebody says, "Oh, that's so much," that's fine. They can either pay it or not, And one thing I heard someone say once that I really love, someone was like, "Man, that costs so much." And they're like, "Well, I could charge you," and they raised the price. Like, let's say you charge $10. That's again really low, but charge $10. Oh, that's so much. Yeah, I could charge $100. Oh yeah, 10's great,
No, it's so true. I always tell people, take your price, what you think you're worth, and double it. That's what you should be charging.
Yep.
That's what I tell, especially when you first start as a teacher. Don't undervalue your time. The same thing goes for long arming. I know a lot of women who even basically refuse to charge. They will long arm for free. And it's like, don't undervalue yourself or that skill that you have. I understand that you're doing it for friends, but that doesn't mean that you should just give it away. You should put value on it.
Well, what would you say are some pitfalls and things to watch out for as a quilting educator?
So one of the number one things is what we were just talking about. Don't undervalue yourself, especially if you're traveling somewhere. If I am flying somewhere, I am going to make a flat fee, and then I'm going to have a flat teaching fee. And then I'm also going to have a flat fee for my travel expenses. And then I'm going to add on extra anything above that to make sure that I actually end up making money. There's nothing worse than spending, 5 or 6 days away from your family and coming home and realizing that ended up costing me money. That is not how it should work.
No, I mean, this is more of a philosophical idea, but why do you think there is this? Because, okay, obviously you're talking about machines that cost more than a car. Mm-hmm. Our fabric stashes are huge. However, quilters are known to be very chintzy with their money, like, oh, that's so expensive. This pattern costs what? $15? It's like, oh my goodness. So what's going on here?
I think part of it is just people undervaluing the skill that they have. It does take a special, I don't want to say a special person. It takes a very confident person to walk into a room and say, I am the expert here. Everyone's going to listen to me because I have valuable things to say. It does take a confident person to do that. You need to think of, when you're valuing yourself, how many hours and years of your life have you devoted to learning how to do this? Don't just think about the few hours that you're spending with these people. Think about the time that it has taken to create this expertise so that you can share this information with the world. I think that's what a lot of people, especially women in this industry, tend to discount.
Yes.
This experience.
Well, and two things I'm thinking of. One, there's a story I heard about Pablo Picasso, and he, at the end of his life, was at a cafe, and he, drew on a napkin, and he was going to throw his tray away, and this woman said, "Can I have your napkin?" And he was like, "That'll be $20,000. She's like, "What? That took you 2 seconds to draw." And he was like, "No, this took me 30 years. And so all of that experience, that makes it so valuable. But then also there's this other side of the coin where I heard about this in another industry. So I'll share this example and tie it into quilting. There was a interior designer, and there's this parade of homes in Utah, and I love to go visit that. And she was like, it's so frustrating as an interior decorator because so many people will do this for free. They'll decorate the homes for free for publicity. And I can see where she's coming from, but I can also see the other side of that coin where there's the value in the marketing, and there's so many people who will do it for free. So to say, I'm going to charge for this, is almost impossible because there's so many people who are willing to do it for free. And so it's like, what do you do? But I think at a certain point, when you're doing it for business and you've done it long enough and people want you, you can say, this is what I charge, take it or leave it. And people are going to say, I will take that. And the people who don't, they don't. But you having enough credibility and enough, experience and all of that, finally people are going to be like, fine, all right, I will. Yes, I'll pay for that. Like, I would be willing to pay so much to have someone come in here and teach me a few things on my sewing machine. And I've asked, and people are like, no, I don't want to. I'm like, name your price. Like, I want you here,
Yeah. No, I totally get that. And I like what you're talking about. I think of just kind of an experience from my own quilting journey here. So when I first got my long arm, I knew that I wanted to start a long arming business, but I knew that I had to have a certain level of quality in that quilting before I'd be able to start feeling good about charging the prices I wanted to charge. So speaking to your, there's a time and a place to do it for free. And there's a time and a place to say, okay, I'm going to start charging. So what my marketing strategy, I was a member of a couple different guilds at the time. I went in and said, hey, you guys, I just bought a long arm. I want to learn. I will quilt any charity quilt for free. You just have to give me the backing, the batting, and the top. I'll provide the thread. I have lots of thread. I'll provide the labor, the quilting, whatever. I'll bring it to you. You'll trim it, bind it. We'll donate it, right? So over I think it was about 8 months or so, I quilted 30 something quilts for charity. And every single one I would bring in and I would show it at the next guild meeting and say, hey, you guys, look, I tried this technique on it. Look how great it turned out. And everybody saw how my quilting kept getting better. Well, by the end of that, I didn't even have to start saying, hey, you guys, I'm going to start charging. People started bringing me their quilts and say, oh, no, this isn't a charity quilt. I want to pay you for this. And I want you to do that technique that you did last month on that quilt. So you're exactly right. It's learning and having the confidence in yourself to say, okay, I've spent how many hours mastering this, or at least getting to a level that people feel like they can pay me for it. So guess what? I am worth it now. Yes, I will still occasionally quilt a charity quilt. I will tell you guys that. As a matter of fact, I make sure that I do because I feel like I need to give back. But it's pretty rare that I do something just as a favor for anybody. I charge for my time now.
Yeah. So. And if you want to, that's your decision. And you saying like, I am actually choosing to do this for free. It's not because somebody asked me to. And I love, even you talked about this with teaching at first. You said you would reach out to your friends and say, can I teach you this? And so I really feel like it's important to start off not charging a whole lot. Like to run in and be a novice at something and charge is going to hurt everyone, but to start off doing, and I love that example that you gave of the quilting where you just did it enough where you didn't even have to advertise. People came to you. And so there is this supply and demand. And I mean, I've seen it in the quilting industry myself and even I was at lunch the other day with my husband and I was like, I would love to design a quilt for like Pottery Barn or Magnolia, Joanna Gaines. I honestly, maybe this is not the business in me, but I said it, I was like, I would do it for free just to get my name out there. And he's like, there is a price for that. It's called marketing. And there's a price, and just like you doing it for free. So it's not always in dollar, but it does come back to that,
Exactly. And just a note on that, because I had a really great accountant at the time, all of those charity quilts, I went ahead and I had set up my small business and had everything. I was able to write those off too, because those were charitable contributions. So you're exactly right. I was still getting value out of it.
Yes. Well, and this is getting into marketing, which is what I love. So, but I had someone teach about the difference between marketing and advertising. And advertising, you are trying to get people to come and buy your product. Marketing is brand awareness. And they talked about in Las Vegas, those fountains that go off at the Bellagio, how much money they spend on that. It's exorbitant. That's marketing. They're not getting people to come and buy, but it's a signature, like, oh my gosh, yeah, the fountain. I mean, I say that, everyone's like, oh yeah, the Bellagio, you know? And so there are things that we do to build our brand awareness that then helps people know about us and then come and buy from us. But it's more of a long-term game, you know? And I do think a lot of people get into the business at first just like, how can I earn money now? What can I do right now to get money? Which there are ways to do that. And I think your path is a very great way to do that. But to build a brand, a personal brand that can really, you know, stand the test of time, stand on its own 2 feet, if you will.
Yeah.
So, okay, that path, if someone is like, I really would like to, okay, when someone is working for Handi Quilter, do they need to have their own presence? Or can they just let you guys market for them and say, hey, here's our person, they'll come out and do this for you?
So we have educators that fall in both camps. More and more, our educators are becoming very social media savvy. If you were to go in on Instagram, for example, look at the hashtag HQ National Educator or Handi Quilter National Educator, you'll find that there's quite a few of them that are very social media savvy. And then we have some of our gals that are a little more old school and they don't do as much of that. And it's their choice. That's one of the fun things I love about our program is we don't push people and say, oh, you have to do this. Now, as for how the educators get the gig, so to speak, like to go and do an event for a retailer. We have a gal here on staff. Her name's Allie, and she receives the request from the retailer saying, hey, I want to do this event. I need an educator. And then Allie has a calendar that she keeps coordinated with all the educators. And she'll find who's available and she'll send them an email saying, hey, do you want to do this gig? And they say yes. And then she connects them. And so whether somebody's doing a lot of social media on their own or not doesn't determine how they're going to get selected with a retailer. We do have retailers that will request certain people. I mean, our educators, a lot of them, as they start doing more and more events, they get well known. The different retailers talk about them. They get, you know, people want them, people request them. So we have it go that way too. Very cool.
And I think that can be a big relief for some people who aren't necessarily wanting to go on social media. But if you're a really great teacher, word of mouth, you can, you know, have a great career without having to do social media. So
yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Are you on social media? Where are you on social media?
Yeah, I'm on Instagram and on Facebook. Kim Quilts, and it's KWILTS, Kim Quilts, all one word. So you can find me there. That's
okay. Do you know what's funny? I've been following you since the beginning. Now that you spell it that way, I'm like, oh my gosh. I think when we go to like quilt markets and stuff, we need to have our Instagram names because I'm like, wait, you're that person, you know?
Yeah.
Too funny.
Yeah, I'm also all over Handi Quilter because me along with Christina Whitney, we're the two people who do all the YouTube videos for Handi Quilter. So people might recognize us from there. We do a weekly video that comes out on the Handi Quilter YouTube channel, and that's also posted on Facebook. So Handi Quilter does connect the two, but you can find me both places.
Okay, and I do want to ask though, so how do you like YouTube? So you're on YouTube, you're on Instagram, where videos? Oh no, I guess that's YouTube. Yeah. What else?
Yeah. So we do a video every week. We have a series that, so June of 2020, when the entire world was in the middle of changing, before that, the education group had only ever done one video a month. And our marketing director at the time, her name's Brenda Grell. She's an amazing person who worked her entire career in quilting. She was a editor for the big magazines, all this different stuff. She came in and she's like, girls, things have got to change. We're like, okay. She's like, you're going to start doing a video every week. And we were like, okay, sure. So we've done a video every week since then. We come up with a lot of fun stuff. We named our show, it's called the Watch and Learn Show. That fall, we finally settled on a name that we really liked. And we just talk about all things long arm. So those videos are posted on the Handi Quilter YouTube channel, and then also on the Handi Quilter Facebook. Oh God, I can't remember if it's the page or the group. Social media title. Sorry, I'm not the best at all this stuff. And then on Instagram, we do a lot of fun things. Our social media manager, her name's Brianne Huntsman. She just had us start doing stuff on TikTok also for Handi Quilter, which has been kind of fun. She's like, bring on the silly, have some fun with this. And so we are. So we've been doing a little bit of that too.
That's kind of cool. Okay. So which one is your favorite of those platforms?
Probably YouTube. We have a lot of fun on YouTube every Tuesday at noon Mountain Time is when our video for that week premieres. And Christina and I are always sitting, right now I'm sitting at my desk and we're sitting at our desks and we watch it live and we do a live chat with people who watch as it premieres. And that's a lot of fun. We have a group of people that watch every week religiously. It's so much fun. And they're from all over the world, which is the craziest thing. We have people from France and Brazil and Australia, and then all over the US, Michigan, Texas, that tune in every week. And so it's fun. We get to check in with them. So I really enjoy that part of it because filming is very solitary. I think a lot of people tend to forget that when you're filming, you're in a filming studio and it's me and Christina, which is awesome. We're like best quilting friends anyway. Outside of our relationship on camera, we really are good friends. So it's the two of us and then it's Jacob or whoever happens to be running the cameras. That's usually who it is. Sometimes Brianne pops in, but it's three people in a room. And so it's fun when we get to have that interaction on Tuesdays.
Yeah, I had that experience where I went to, I don't know, a quilt shop, I don't remember which one. And someone heard my voice. They're like, oh my gosh, Elizabeth, I know you from your podcast. And they asked a question about like how one of my kids was doing. And I was like, I forget. I feel like it's just me alone in my closet, talking. But no, I'm putting it out there for the world, and yeah, but it's kind of fun to like put faces or in your case, YouTube. I've never done that. The YouTube live chat. Is it just like there's a chat box there and you type back and forth?
Yep, exactly. Yeah, it's fun. So we know people by their handles. So if we were people in real life, I'd be like, okay, so you're fuzzy face place, Leah. Nice to meet you. What's your name in real life?
Isn't it so funny? But yet, some of my best connections in this life have come from social media. Like my childhood self would be appalled by that. But yet, here it is,
Yeah, welcome to the 21st century.
I know, it's true. So out of curiosity, are you going to be at Quilt Market?
I don't know. That's a really good question. At Handi Quilter, I'm always kind of the person who's held in reserve, and they tend to decide last minute whether I'm going to go to market and festival or not. So I'll keep you posted. I might be there. I might not. Often, I don't necessarily go to shows. I'm usually a little more effective, let's put it that way, if I stay in the office and I'm creating content. And then we also have a classroom. My office, which here has 20 long arms in it. And so we do retreats. We teach in person here. We have people come in for day classes, we have people come in from all over the world for classes and training and all those kind of things. So I don't get out of the office a ton.
Yeah, but that's kind of nice to.
It is. But I'm also, I keep telling everybody, I'm like, okay, so my baby just graduated from high school. I want to start traveling again. So I do have to say, I'm really excited. I'm going to Australia in February to teach at our distributor down there. Blessington is doing a big summit and a big conference, and they've invited me and Christina to go teach. So I'll be.
That is cool. That's awesome. See, that is the dream. Have a trip to Australia or New Zealand or something like paid for. Okay. And before we wrap up, I did want to ask, this is my own curiosity, but it has got to be for my listeners too. So things I've been thinking about recently, I'm like, man, I love marketing. I've got all these skills. Here I am growing my own business. I wonder what would it be like if I were to go and do the marketing for another company and not work for myself. So it sounds like that's what you do. You're there in the office creating content. What would you say are the pros and cons? You can speak to that, and then I can speak to your own, personal brand.
Yeah. So the real pro for coming and working somewhere like Handi Quilter is that I have a team. So I have a videographer, I have a photographer, I have a social media content manager, I have 2 graphic designers, I have an entire web team. I've got a partner in crime that comes in and helps me out with things. I've got an accounting department that takes care of all that stuff. I've got shipping and fulfillment. I have this team around me so that I don't have to wear all those different hats. I'm able to just do what I'm really good at and what I'm best at. So I can concentrate on teaching, creating content, filming, helping create marketing plans and ideas for the company, and helping to just raise that brand awareness for Handi Quilter, doing some traveling, doing things like that. Now, for myself personally, the pros are when I go home at night, I don't have to worry about, did I forget to put that bill in the mail? Or, oh crap, I've got to stay up until, 1 p.m. tonight so I can make sure and get that video up on YouTube tomorrow by noon, because somebody else is handling that. So that's a definite pro for me personally. Cons, I don't know. I actually really, so for a lot of years, I did the thing where I just kind of taught on the side and did all of that. To be perfectly honest, I really enjoy working with a team of people and being able to just concentrate on what I do best. So I don't really know that I have any cons right now. Some people might argue that my personal awareness, on a personal level, so for example, my Kim quilts is not necessarily getting the attention it should, but you know what? That's okay. People still know who I am. When I go to a show, like a big quilt show, people follow me into the bathroom because they want to meet me. And I don't mean that in a braggy way. I mean that in it's actually happened.
Yeah.
Okay. Nice to meet you. So
interesting. Because for me, that's just something, and I've never actually vocalized this on my podcast before, but I've kind of toyed with that idea. What if I were to take these skills and work for someone else because of all those things? For me, for my business, in order for it to up level really to the next level, I would need to hire a team. And that's not my skill set. I have no interest in hiring and managing a team. I'm good at the creative and that. And so I'm well, what if I were to just go and plug into someone else's machine and do what I love? But then I also wouldn't have full ownership, and I get to do and not do whatever I want. If I go on vacation, I don't answer to anybody. I can just take time off and I can sleep in or take a nap, do whatever. And so I kind of like that freedom, but there are just pros and cons to both. And, I have my own personal brand, but does that matter? Why, what are you doing? What am I doing with it? What does one do with that? So could I do just as much good in the world with another company as, you know what I mean? So yeah, thoughts to think about.
Yes. And all questions that I ask myself from time to time. Right now, I think that definitely, I think it's part of the extrovert in me too. I enjoy being around people. And so it's nice to get up and go to work every day. Another thing is I've been at Handi Quilter long enough. I mean, I can take time off whenever I want to. I have a pretty flexible schedule. They trust and know, and hopefully if my bosses are listening, I'm not lying here, that I get stuff done. And so in some respects, I still have some of that flexibility, which is good. So, yeah.
Yeah, I like that. Well, so it sounds like you have the dream job. So how does one get your job? No, just kidding.
well, work really hard, sew a lot, to be confident. Don't be afraid to get out and just put yourself out there and go for that dream job. And make the connections. I am absolutely that mom that embarrasses her children and always makes friends in the line at the grocery store. I am that person. However, look at where it's gotten me. So Don't be afraid to make friends, talk to people, let people know what you do, what you love to do, and good things will come your way. That's I feel like that's how it's happened for me.
So I keep saying this is the last question. All right, this is really the last question. So are you just naturally, that's just your personality? Because I will say, I also have noticed that I will just, and I don't even realize, people are like, how did you get the confidence to do that? I'm like, oh, I guess that would take confidence. Huh. Okay. You know, like that's just your personality.
Yes, absolutely. I remember, okay, so this is kind of funny. I remember in junior high, I don't know, like ninth grade or something. I had a science teacher of all things give us a like personality test, and there was like a self-confidence section of it. And he was walking around the room, and I remember he was all, and looking over the shoulders, and he looks at it and he's like, yep, Kim, that's exactly what I would expect from you. And I remember looking around and seeing I'd given myself like 9s and 10s on everything. And all of my friends had given themselves like 5s and 6s. And I was like, come on, girls, like you're good at this. You can do this. So I do really, I think from a young age, it's always just been the way I am. I'm like, oh yeah, I can do that. Sure. I can do that.
Do you have the desire to help other people have that confidence too? Like, let me instill that in you.
Yes, absolutely. That is my number one favorite thing about teaching. So my background, I have a degree in English teaching, and I taught in junior high for a while. I know.
So did I.
Oh, you too. Okay, so maybe it's a teacher in us, right?
Maybe.
My number one favorite thing about teaching long arming or anything quilting related is that aha moment when you're looking at the student and you're explaining how to bring the bobbin thread up to the top of the quilt, and you see the light go off and they understand how to do it. And it's that moment, it's that spark. I love that because all of a sudden they now have the confidence to do that. They're going to go home, they're going to do it, and they're going to teach their friends. They're going to show other people how to do it. And who knows what that little moment of confidence that you sparked in them is going to lead to. So I love that.
Okay. Well, we have so much in common. I mean, you're speaking, I'm like, yes, this is exactly. So that's so cool. So are there any parting words or thoughts? I mean, that was a beautiful thing to say, but is there anything you want to wrap it up with a bow beyond what you just said?
No, I believe in yourself. Don't be afraid to give it a try. And if all else fails, I do say this to my educators, fake it till you make it.
Yes. Because really we're more talented than we think we are. And knowing our audience, it's more veer on the side of you're better than you think you are. I've rare to be like, oh, rein it in. Like you think you're way better. No, it's the other way around.
No, I totally agree. Yeah. You've got it in you. You just need to do it.
Yeah, absolutely. So for our listeners who are interested in Handi Quilting or who want to check out your personal brand, where should they go take a look?
So you can go to handiquilter.com and check out our website and look at all the great things we've got there. You can also find us. Handi Quilter YouTube channel is a great place to go. Handi Quilter is all over YouTube and Instagram and on TikTok now, as I mentioned. Yeah. And if you want to find out more about me, you can check me out on social media, Kim Quilts, and it is KIMKWILTS. All lowercase on both Facebook and on Instagram. And I have a website too, kimquilts.com, that you can check out.
Awesome. And we'll put the link in the show notes for people who are interested in applying for being an educator. Is that right?
Yes. I'm always looking for great people who love long arming, love teaching, and love to travel. Those are the 3 things we're looking for.
Interesting. Even you say it, I'm like, oh yeah, I'm interested. No, I'm not a long arm quilter, but like it sounds so cool. So
I bet I could turn you into one.
I know. Yeah, don't push too hard. You totally could. Well, thank you so much. This has been so much fun.
Oh, well, thanks. It has been fun. Thank you so much for having me.